launched packages of strategies and regulations such as the National Environmental Strategy with the aim of producing 50% of the kingdom's energy need by 2030 using clean, renewable sources. Enhancing the level of international cooperation is the optimal solution to meeting the challenges of climate change. During our G20 presidency last year, we advocated the need to adopt the notion of a circular carbon economy, launching 2 international initiatives to curb land degradation and to protect coral reefs. More recently, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince announced 2 new initiatives, the Saudi Green Initiative and the Middle East Green Initiative, which aim at reducing carbon emissions in the region by more than 10% of global contributions. These initiatives also aim at planting 50 billion trees in the region, in addition to a number of unique initiatives. These 2 initiatives have been endorsed by the international community. We will work with our partners to achieve their goals by hosting this year the Green Saudi Initiative Forum and the Middle East Green Initiative Summit. Finally, we would like to affirm our keenness on and commitment to cooperation to combat climate change in order to create a better environment for future generations, wishing success for our efforts to protect our planet, and may peace be with you.
Thank you very much, Your Majesty. The floor is now to the President of the Federal Republic of Brazil, President Bolsonaro. Mr. President.
Heads of state, heads of government, ladies and gentlemen, President Joe Biden, I thank you very much for the invitation to take part in this summit, leaders. Historically, Brazil has been an active voice in efforts to build a global environmental agenda. Today, I renew our credentials, which are supported not only by our achievements so far, but also by the commitments that we stand ready to take on before future generations. As the home of the planet's greatest biodiversity and as an agri-environmental powerhouse, Brazil is at the very forefront of efforts to tackle global warming. As we get together to discuss climate change, we cannot possibly forget the major cause of the problem at hand, and that is the burning of fossil fuels in the course of the past 2 centuries. Brazil has accounted for less than 1% of the historic greenhouse gas emissions, even as one of the world's largest economies. Currently, Brazil accounts for less than 3% of annual global emissions. We have in place one of the cleanest energy mixes in the world, marked by renewed investments in solar, wind, hydro, and biomass-based energy. We are a pioneering country in the dissemination of biofuels, renewable biofuels such as ethanol, which help clean up our urban centers. In the countryside, we have promoted a green revolution based on science and innovation. We produce more using less resources, which makes Brazilian agriculture one of the most sustainable practices on the planet. We are proud to conserve 84% of the Brazilian Amazonian biome and 12% of the Earth's drinking water resources. As a result, in the past 15 years alone, we have avoided the emission of more than 7.8 billion tons of carbon into the atmosphere. In the light of our common but differentiated responsibilities, we continue to collaborate towards global efforts against climate change. We are one of the few developing countries to adopt and to reaffirm a cross-cutting and comprehensive NDC, including absolute targets for reducing emissions, even already for 2025 by 37%, and a reduction of up to 40% by 2030. Mr. President, we could not agree more with your call for establishing ambitious commitments on the climate agenda. Accordingly, I have determined that our climate neutrality in Brazil be achieved by 2050, therefore bringing forward by 10 years the previously announced commitment levels. Among the measures that are required to that end, may I highlight here our commitment to eliminate illegal deforestation in Brazil by 2030, with full and prompt enforcement of the Brazilian Forest Code. With that, we will reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by nearly 50% by that date. One must recognize that this will be a complex task. Command and control measures are part of the response. Despite our administration's budget constraints, I have nevertheless determined that the environmental bodies be further strengthened, thereby doubling funds allocated to inspection actions. But it is necessary to do more. We must face the challenge of improving the life of more than 23 million Brazilians who live in the Amazonian region, the country's richest nation as far as natural resources are concerned, but again, a region posting the worst human development indices. Overcoming the so-called Amazonian paradox or contradiction is a key and essential condition for sustainable development in that region. We must also enhance land governance and make the bioeconomy a reality by truly acknowledging the value of the standing forest and biodiversity. This must be an effort that will envisage and accommodate the interests of all Brazilians, to include indigenous peoples and traditional communities. In view of the magnitude of these obstacles, including financial obstacles, it is key that we be able to count on the contribution of companies, the business community, institutions, and people willing to act immediately, as well as in a real and constructive fashion towards the solution to these problems. This year, the international community will have a unique opportunity to collaborate towards efforts to build our common future. COP26 will have as one of its main missions the task of fully adopting the mechanisms envisaged under Articles 5 and 6 of the Paris Agreement. Carbon markets are critical as a source of funds and investments to propel and boost our climate action, not only in forests, but also in other relevant sectors of the economy, such as industrial activity, power generation, and waste management. Likewise, there must be fair payment for environmental services provided by our biomes to the planet at large, as a way to recognize the economic nature of environmental conservation activities. As I said before and stress now, we stand ready and remain open to international cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, as we have all affirmed back in 1992 in Rio de Janeiro during the Earth Summit, a conference chaired by Brazil, the right to development must be materialized in such a way as to equitably and sustainably respond to environmental and development needs of both current and future generations. It is with that spirit of collective responsibility and a shared future that I invite you all again today to support us in this mission. You can certainly count on Brazil. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, thank you very much. We turn now to the Prime Minister of Bhutan, Prime Minister Tshering. The floor is yours.
Your Majesty, Excellencies, ladies